talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you coming for the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane? It's your mistake. Kingdoms rise and fall. I've come to take it all. I'll take it. I've come to take it. Kingdoms rise and fall. I've come to take it all. I'll take it all. Storm is coming, so you better start running. Though you can't control, feel it in our bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. Coming for the throne.
Hey Brawl Stars fans, welcome to the Brawl Stars Championship. This is the South America Monthly Final, the first one of the 2025 season. I'm your host, Rachel, aka Seltzer, and I'm so excited to be joining you for another day packed full of action. We got 8 incredible teams. We've got 3 wonderful casters. We've got Kenny and Ark on our first set. And Ark, we had a great time last week with Kenny. Long time no see. How you been doing, bud?
Good to see you. Obviously got to work together at the Invitational, but this is where points and postseasons are made. It's great to be kicking off South America here. I am very excited.
Yeah, Ark, how you feeling today?
Very excited to get stuck into some good old-fashioned South same old battle in that grand finals, head-to-head all the way, or are we going to have some new rising stars this year? It's going to be exciting to find out.
Now let's jump into the bracket here at Ark. All that experience in South America, bring it to bear for me and tell me a little bit about these 8 teams we're seeing today in these matchups.
Yeah, some familiar names, some familiar faces, but also some huge roster announcements. So Loud there being one of the biggest organizations now coming into the South American scene. That's your last year Space Station Gaming, so look out for them. A huge, heavy favorite for me in this year's competition. But also, I'm going to point out as well, Casa Brawl as well. That's Motep, Pekka, and Jubilee as well. Definitely a fan favorite for me, one that could go all the way, and funny to see that they're both on opposite sides of the brackets. But you've also got like a Limber Squad, SK Clans there as well, some familiar names too, and it's all for the taking.
Oh, you singled out Loud there, and that's a great call out. They're our team to watch for today. And Kenny, a lot of history on this team, coming in #1 ranked seed from 2024. What else can you tell me about them?
I mean, I think they're going to be the #1 seed coming into today as well, not just based on monthly qualifiers and last year, but honestly, in practices leading up to this, I think they've been by far the most convincing team. There's a lot of solid shouts in this region. Casa Brawl were in this last year and competing with them all year long, but right now, these guys just look a cut above the rest.
Yeah, they're looking sharp, Ark. You told us a little bit about them. What else can you tell me about this roster? Sticking together, ranking last year in our World Final top, let's see, 9th through 12th there. You think they've got it this year?
Yes, this is the thing. They've got a big organization behind them, which comes with a great amount of then, bit of pressure. Nothing too terrible in that sense, but certainly a very decorative roster. Firecrow's got 14 monthly final wins out of 26 appearances. That's huge. Adino's got 11 wins out of 30 monthly finals in total, so this is his 31st here today. I mean, people forget these things. That is immensely talented when you think about how hard it is to even qualify for monthly finals. So these are big numbers. Adino's, I think, played about as many monthly finals now as Semantic in the EMEA region. So, I mean, when you consider those things in mind, that's a wealth of experience behind yourselves.
Yeah, a lot of your favorite players got a lot of reps under their belt, and if you're trying to track your favorite player around the scene, support him, well, you're going to want to pick up a bunch of these sprays because these roster changes and these team changes are constant. But as we're getting into the 2025 season, these sprays are on their way out. So, Kenny, what do you got to grab before they go?
I've already grabbed every single one of them. As an unbiased caster, I, of course, had to do so. And, of course, I was supporting Code Arc with his codes.
As you should, absolutely. If anyone wants
to
do the same, all for it. But yeah, well, whatever credit code you're using, it's the last opportunity to get your, cells stuck into those, because once they're gone from the game, you have the chance to be able to still flex it, of course, but they will be gone forever. So make sure that you're getting quick.
Absolutely, if you want to pick them up. And we had a fun time last week. We saw a lot of different competitions, a lot in the draft and the ban phase. Kenny, let's take a look at our most picked and our most banned brawlers from last week.
I think Juju's a no-brainer for me. In the current state of the competitive meta, I think she just applies to so many different maps. Lou got touched in the balance changes a while back, but of course with the break after the World Finals, we really haven't gotten to see pro players kind of compete here. And I think Lou's hypercharge, the tweaks that they made to Dim have elevated him to the very top. But Melody is one I am certainly keeping my eyes on as well. She's so aggressive, can get in your back lines. Such a frustrating brawler to play against.
Yeah, I think for me as well, with Luz, such a versatile brawler. And I think when it comes to big tanks and that kind of thing, certainly a big option on defense a lot of the time. I think for this region as well, Stu has got a big high player rate generally anyway. A lot of players are very accomplished with that particular brawler. I mean, for me, Dog's pretty much one of the best, if not the best in the entire world with Stu. So I think some relative stats there to consider when it comes to this region as well.
Well, lots to consider with this region. In fact, we asked all of you, and then also me, to consider who might win these quarterfinal rounds. Let's take a look at our talent predictions here. A bit of difference in that quarterfinal four, but otherwise same across the board here, Art.
Yeah, I mean, I admire Kenny's prep. I know he's a man of stats and numbers, so I have to side with a man on my right there. But certainly, that is a bit of a 50-50 match for me. I think very close as far as those two teams are concerned. I think, for me, match 1 and 3, probably the most one-sided of those. So I think that if you're looking to kind of match us on the desk, maybe go with those as your kind of number 1s and number 2s. But match 2 as well, I think could be quite a close affair also. But I think you're pretty safe for the most part of matches 1 and 3, or at least, we hope so. Otherwise, we're banging trouble here on the desk.
Yeah, our percentages as far as guessing, they could be better. And hopefully this weekend we'll pull those back up here. But let's see what the players are expecting for this tournament today.
Nesse ano de 2025, eu espero de novo continuar sendo o top 1 da região e trazer muitos títulos aí, principalmente para estar representando muito bem a Loud. A gente está querendo ganhar da FA Mini Pecas, que é o nosso rival desde o ano passado, então ganhar deles seria muito bom.
A expectativa está sendo as melhores, né? A gente vem ganhando alguns campeonatos menores e ganhamos um campeonato da nossa região que valia bastante premiação. Então a gente está bastante unido até e estamos tendo uma... Provavelmente vamos contra a Mini Pecas, que é a melhor da região atualmente. Então eu acho que só vai ter uma disputa acirrada só nas semis. E nas quartas eu acho que a gente vai conseguir passar tranquilo.
La verdad tenemos unas expectativas bastante altas con mi equipo, ya que vamos a poder jugar en las mismas condiciones que los demás equipos. Lo que me gustaría tener para 2025 sería clasificar al mundial, ya que nunca lo he hecho, y eso sería como la mejor experiencia que podría tener.
Early in the year, but every team has their eyes set on that world final. Good to know they're all fighting for something. And, while you're fighting for something, you may ignite passions. And those passions, well, they may lead to really strong opinions. So, community, we're asking you, what Brawl Stars take has got you like this? You can tune in on social media, share with us your answers. And, well, that's a heck of a take. Tufa's got me like, heck yeah. But we're asking, what's got you at the point of 100 swords? What's got the community a little fired up when you share this thought? Now, Ark, Kenny, I'm not going to ask you just yet, but I will ask you, please do noodle on this question. I would like to check in with you later. And if you're watching at home, you're watching on our event site, make sure you share your answers on social media. We'd love to throw them up here on stream. But Kenny, nothing coming to mind, right?
Nothing at this time. I've seen some pretty crazy tweets this week in response to this, though, so I'm curious what the community's got. So we'd love to hear from you, and maybe we'll even throw up some favorite ones that we've got here, too.
I think so. Trump being the predictions master, maybe, for when it comes to mind, considering that he did terrible at the Wild Finals in terms of his predictions. That's probably rings true for me, at least. I know something went 100% though. I forget the guy, but he's very handsome.
Yeah, who's counting though, right? Who's counting?
Who's counting though, right? Yeah, exactly.
All the same team, really.
Speaking of teams, our first two teams are ready for the first matchup of the day, the very first quarterfinal. We've got Loud versus Ningwam Segura, and Team Loud, they're our team to watch for a reason. Looking hot after last year, the #1 seed for the season, making it all the way to World's Finals. Now they are setting up for their first monthly final of the year, Ark.
Yeah, of course, who can forget as well the climax of that July monthly finals last year versus esports when Space Station Gaming just escaped with the final second stars, which landed them deep into the world finals. Skip the LCQ, didn't have to go through that side of things, but it wasn't a fruitful world finals by any means at all in Group B for Loud. Of course, losing to Pioneers and Reply Totem on day one. They ended in bottom last place, and that is not the result we expected really from a squad that really has showed such great promise. 3 monthly final victories last year, and an appearance in every single grand finals. So much to live up to that just wasn't kind of meeting our expectations when we got to the world finals.
I do wonder what the team is expecting of themselves after that last year's performance. Let's check in with them, what they have to say about this matchup.
Sempre que eu tenho uma partida importante, um dia antes, eu sempre peço pelo meu sono, então eu vou dormir cedo. Eu sempre fico calmo, vendo alguma coisa que me deixa calmo. Desligo todas as luzes, fico relaxado. E no dia em que eu acordo, onde vai ser a partida importante, eu sempre tomo um banho antes do jogo. Às vezes boto ele gelado para dar aquele up, aquela acordada. Eu tô muito feliz com a cena de esportes agora. Vejo que a gente só tem mais ainda potencial para crescer. E eu acredito que no futuro vai ser melhor ainda com chegada de orgs juntamente com a Loud. Algumas outras organizações também podem vir pro Brasil. Só vejo que a gente tem muito potencial para continuar crescendo.
Firecrow excited about the growth of Brawl Stars esports, and he has great reason to be, sitting on the top roster currently in the space. What else can you tell us about their meteoric rise here, Kenny?
Honestly, they were really successful last year, and it's a good reason why Loud ended up picking these guys up. Obviously, a lot of first places and a lot of second places and all that. I think Worlds is kind of the one blemish that we've got. There's been no South America team that's actually made it to the top 8 since about 2022, which is a long stretch here, but I think these guys have talent. I think they've shown promise. They've come close, but I think this is kind of the year that we want to see them make that next jump and leap to try and get this region back on global standing.
Well, they're going to have to bring these skills to bear in their first match against Ningwam Segura. Now, this is a free agent team reformed after 2019. We got Tufu back at the helm. And what does it mean with the team he's pulled together now for their options here, Kenny?
Well, Tufa's been around the block for a long time, like you mentioned. He's made Worlds several times, and of this team, it's kind of that veteran presence that they're kind of looking for, right? Brabao, Ray, they haven't been in these kind of intense situations, these deep runs in monthly finals, world finals, and such. I think they're really going to lean on Tufa's leadership, kind of his experience to try and push them through. The good news is they've got nothing to lose, right? Loud are definitely the favorites here. I think the other side, not as much. So they're kind of playing with house money here. Whatever happens, I think, is kind of meeting expectations.
And Arca, I want to ask a little bit about maybe the input of Ace in this as their analyst. He's been all over the place, worked for a bunch of different teams, been to the World Finals. What do you think this is going to be as a factor of their lineup?
I think certainly a great deal of prep comes into all of these kind of things. I'm certainly starting with Kenny. I think that Tufa really has got to be the man to kind of lead this squad. It's his 28th monthly final here today. And, one thing I have as a reservation with Tufa, it has been quite a while since we've really kind of seen him at his peak. I want to see him kind of get back to the swing of things. Last year, of course, on the roster with Bravo.
Dați-mă o palmă, că doar eu Eu просто devia. Știu că-s prost. Am avut microfonul pornit și o trebuie să închid live-ul, bro. Se bate ăștia?
Audience here very much in favor of Loud, but we've seen these go all sorts of ways, and Ark, we might be in for another upset here, but what odds are you giving it?
I mean, I think it's about fair.
Upset here, but what odds are you giving it?
I mean, I think it's about fair what we're seeing in terms of the poll on the event site for me. You know,
Se dau tare pe tine. Așa, așa. Ok. Da, dacă...
as the draft coming in now, the gem grab, gem fort being the first map. Let's see where their minds are at. And again, certainly it's not always straightforward when you have such a big signing at the start of the season. Comes with a lot of pressure. The band's already in, being Jad, the Lou, and the Juju. Again, brawlers that we've all seen at the beginning of the stream on the stats side of things being eradicated in this same instance. Juju, the Berry, and the Melody then on the right side of things. And coin toss is with Nguem Segura. So they pick up Stu first pick. I like it a lot, especially on a map mode like this. Certainly taking it away from Loud though might have been the actual thought process here, because again, as I was saying earlier, Kaidog is so phenomenal with this particular brawler. I wouldn't be at all surprised, Kenny, that's like a direct little nod towards taking it off his hands.
I think it is 100% as well. In practices leading up to this, Barry Ash combination and Stu have been kind of the two directions that they've gone. So they hadn't gotten their hands on Stu. Well, they're kind of looking for Barry to power up an ally. So they love getting aggressive on this map. I think that first overall selection is very safe as well. So I think they did their homework. You know, obviously these two teams aren't going to be practicing against each other leading up into this, but I do think that was very intentional as well.
Like the penny pick as well. We haven't really seen too much of her across the other regions, and I'm not really too sure why, to be completely honest. She's been such a great addition now with the hypercharge coming into her kit that it really has resonated quite a lot with me as to how much better she is now in terms of the meta. I would like to see a bit of Jessie locking down this mid as well on the other side of the field. Obviously, I'd imagine Penny doing much of that on Loud side of things already. Surge gonna come in now as a big heavy tank counter. Might be making Nguem Segura think twice a little bit if they were going down those lines. Like I say, I agree with the Ash pick. I think it's a really strong tank idea on this particular map. Quite versatile in that regard. We see Rosa a bit more in this region than other regions on Gem 4, simply because you can lay down the grass into the center of the map, but I'm not really a big fan of that style of comp myself, and certainly not against the Surge. So you've got to be considering the whole big picture here. Kit, wow. I mean,
he's back.
Wow. You know how I feel about this. I mean, we saw it constantly last week in East Asia. Not so much in EMEA, but I'm not a massive fan of it. We'll see what the third and final is to join this comp, but so far, already vibing with this idea.
I don't love it either. It had a 25% win rate in East Asia, and it was played quite a bit. It's a brawler that I think needs some perfect circumstances, and I think the Surge here on the other end is kind of playing into this, right? When you see the kit, we're going to assume they're going for something tanky or something more aggressive. So I think Surge is a little bit of a preventative pick. Now they can make an informed decision on this sixth and final pick. It's a high upside case. You're swinging for the fences, but I think that's kind of the thing you need to do for the 8 seed here, right? We've been talking about it. Odds of them winning this are not high. You got to come out with something crazy. Unfortunately for them, Colette is about the hardest of hard counters you can get into that combination.
I mean, you know, you really are driving into the eye of the storm. You've already seen the Surge pick on the right, on the left side of things with Loud, and then you're going to go Kit Frank, and of course they've got the final pick to go Colette and double down on the tank counter. I'm not really sure that's how I would play that draft out myself. Certainly, you know, Nguem Segura are focusing on the idea of overrunning this. As, you know, it looks directly into the camera there in a very fierce manner. Certainly the Penny's going to have the toughest time against this kind of comp. Might be playing pretty well to the Stu. The Salty Barrel can be a quite good deterrent of that with that gadget. But certainly with the Colette and the Surge doubling down, especially if they feed Firecrow so early on, he's already got super off the mark, immediately carded on the left as well. And as quickly as that, Loud have shut down 2 of their opposition and have taken full control.
Yeah, and without wall break here on this Frank, there's really no way to break in. Kit's just going to be kind of sitting here, exhausting gadgets. They have to find some way to get a frag here. 5 gems in the pocket of Loud early, and a pushback and a takedown already. Veteran Tufa has fallen twice now.
Not a good start whatsoever here. But then going Segura. And they've got to find some momentum. Already good shots from Firecrow to Bravo, going straight into an aggressive stance. Good timing though on the kit side from Bravo. And now that might give a little bit more mid-control over. As Loud are forced away. Hull box there as well from Bravo, but now found once more. And taken care of, in fact, by Dino with a final blow. Tuka now trying to assert some authority in the zone, but the gadget was missed. And now, as quickly as that, Loud can start to get the gems back on their side.
Yeah, this Colette is just locking them out. I mean, they're not able to do anything. There's the kit going for something crazy here. Gonna be really tough with Firecrow and Kyo Dog surrounding him, and it's gonna lead to a gym countdown. Loud just running away with it.
Yeah, Tuva's got hypercharge, but that's about it. And especially with the aggressiveness there, Firecrow going in, not going to be too much to say for it on the side of Ningwim. Segura and trying to get some sort of reset, but it's going to be Kaido or nothing. He's got super as well, can get away. And it's going to be the first game going the way of Loud.
And I do think a lot of that is due to the draft as well, Ark. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be a kit hater. It's really not intentional, but the numbers don't back it up. And, well, I mean, I'm just going to be, we're going to keep it a buck here. I mean, the win rates last weekend were atrocious. It was not good. It's not a brawler that I think can be played everywhere. And across regions in the world, support brawlers are great. Barry, Poco, some of the most prominent brawlers in our meta right now. This is not one of them to me, though. At least not to the category and level of selection it's being picked, and it's really being exploited right now.
It's just very cheesy, and I think that works on ladder, you know, maybe even on ranked in the low levels, but, you know, it just doesn't really work on the competitive side of things for me. Again, Loud already have a good firming position in the mid, and especially that cardboard box on the kit side, once it's eradicated and diminished down, it'll be much easier for Loud just to kind of pick and choose where they want to go to this right side. Complete and utter dominance there from Firecrow. Kaido forcing out then, ready to foot to the left-hand side. Ooh, wow, good connection from the kit, but that hypercharge Colette just coming in from Kaido, misses the second, but nonetheless, it's enough. And as quickly as that, again, Loud on 8 gems.
I can't help but chuckle. I mean, it's just been so convincing. Loud, the #1 seed, of course. This is the expectation we have for these guys, and we're looking for the red roster to kind of form an upset. But it's just constant dunks. Firecrow leaping on enemies. Tufa finally getting a super. Doesn't even have time to use it. Rated Foot trying to move down the mid. No success here. Loud are coming out swinging here in our monthly finals with such an easy look in this set #1. It's going to be back to the drawing board for Ningwim Segura.
I mean, one of the most dominant victories I think we've seen in a month, in my opinion. There wasn't really any moment that I felt like Loud were not in control of things. They were just positioning like once. I mean, that's about it. And it wasn't even like a very convincing loss of that mid. Immediately we retook. I mean, you know, it's hard to really fault that. It was really all Loud. Such a convincing fashion. They're not even breaking a sweat, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's not a good way to build momentum up here. Oof.
I love that we're seeing the Loud player cams here too. You talk about them not even breaking a sweat. Did take some time for some quick comms. Having seen them in competition again and again, even seen them on these world stages, you know, this is their true form here. What do you think they're talking about?
Pretty well how the stats up, to be completely honest. I mean, 94 DPS in the kit, and as a donut, that's, you know, very, very reminiscent of the World Finals. 82 DPS on the Frank side as well. I mean, every player on the side of Loud had combined that DPS and more. I mean, it's just really what you'd expect from a draft that went so one-sidedly. I mean, you can't really ever consider doubling down on a tank hit heal concept. But the third final pick is with your opposition, and they've already got a tank counter to start with. Of course they're going to double down. It was the perfect draft for Loud, and I felt like it was handed to them on a plate, in all honesty.
Yeah, you've been kind of hard on the kit picks last weekend, this weekend, Ark, and can you kind of single that out, break that down for me as we're kind of, you know, got some new people learning this game for the first time, or some people who are picking it and maybe shouldn't be?
It's one of those brawls which can have a bit of a cheese quality to it. Ultimately, there's a great amount of healing once you look and latch on to your fellow teammates, and the elusiveness of that particular brawl with the cardboard box invisibility effect of the gadget. Normally, pretty much that's what we see in the competitive scene, is the ability to just press the green button, go invisible, and change your positioning on the map, try and take your opposition by surprise. It can work, actually, in my opinion, probably best actually in knockout, you know, by weighing down the clock and waiting until the final moments. But you know, these are the best teams in the world. They tend to focus their scrims and practicing around the tougher comps to be able to handle and manage and ensure that when they come to that drop, They don't leave any stone unturned. They're really kind of expecting it, and therefore they're not like really committing too heavily towards a certain idea in the eventuality that if you're not going to ban it, it could still show its face. And Loud, again, played it perfectly. I think Surge was a great second pick to have. I think one that can just really be quite versatile and change the sway of the draft depending on what happens next. As we go into our second set then. Brawl center stage. The bands being the Janet, the Rico, and the Otis. Nice to see the Janet band across the majority of these regions now is really quite a front runner now in this draft process. Berry and the Lou and the Stu band out by Nguyen Segura. And the coins now over with Loud, so they get the first pick this time round.
Yeah, Juju's wide open here, so I'm curious to see how both of these teams kind of play out the draft. If you go Juju first overall, you are picking a thrower first. There is a little risk to that. Instead, though, I think Surge is going to be kind of a safe overall pick. On this map especially, there are going to be tanky ideas. With no Barry, they're going to be looking for ways like Poco to possibly back that up. But Ash, Kenji, Frank, Melody all get played here a lot as kind of aggressive or tankier options. So I think picking this up first overall makes a lot of sense just to kind of prevent the other side from getting too far ahead.
It's one of those maps where it's like Juju's definitely always going to be good everywhere, in my opinion, pretty much. And for a very bushy map as well like this, definitely not going to be out of place to see. Now going to be followed up by Nguyen Segura, but I feel like I'm also concerned because Loud could have absolutely picked it first. They didn't have a plan in mind, so the fact that they've actually left it open and I've gone against it makes it feel like to me there's a bit more of a strategy because you don't leave Juju open if you really have not banned it out in any sense. So certainly a very strong tank counter as well, and that's going to be now on the minds of Loud. But I think for me, the best way to counter Juju, there's not that many, to be honest, but I think to try to over-govern it with speed, try to go and over-govern it with aggression, really kind of get up and close and personal as quickly as you possibly can. Going to be doubled down with by the Buster on the side of Nguyen Segura, and it's definitely not a bad pick at all, one that's kind of escaped a lot of the drafts that I've seen over the weekend and over this month. And I'm not really too sure why, to be honest, because it is so good. And of course, when it comes to Brawl Ball, probably one of the best modes you can have a Buster for it. So already seeing some better signs of the draft so far. But again, that third and final pick is where we tend to see the stories change quite quickly. This time it's going to be on the other side. So Loud have got to play this cautiously and ensure that they get this one right. Frank, they're playing a daring game with that one. Of course, the Juju's can play really well into it, but they can just overthrow things, maybe get the heal behind it as well. Did a bit of a rise of Poco recently too, matters, so I don't mind it. But if they can get close, rush things, there you go, there's a combination. That can overthrow things, but they are lacking the speed. That's a bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, you mentioned it, right? Overwhelming Juju, I think, is probably your best bet. Obviously, with Grigri on the map, you get an extra spawner, but Frank is the biggest of sponges on the map, and powered up with Poco is a huge way, I think, to try and take advantage here. Buster's not going to be able to bring him down easier. They're going to have Surge on their side as well, one of the better brawlers, I think, to get up in Frank's face, to jump on him, kind of disrupt those supers. I really like this well-rounded composition from Loud. This was kind of the direction I would have probably headed. Melody was also on my mind, just for a playmaker, a goal scorer, but we saw Colette be an answer to tank last time. This time, Nguyen Segura is going to take it into their hands. I think that's probably one of their better bets to give them a chance here, to be honest with you. I don't know if there was a perfect answer there.
I like it, for sure. I mean, they're definitely going to be trying to give Loud a bit of a taste of their own medicine as the way that they were treated in the previous set, and I quite like it. I think certainly the Vision Gear will be very much on the minds of the players here as well, just to try to give them the earliest idea of when a flank might be inbound. And certainly, I think it's given them a good chance, for sure. But one thing I'll say is that if, Loud just continue to trample this set in the way that they have been, then, well, this is the best draft they've had so far today. Which doesn't give me much hope if it doesn't work out already. Pilot got off to a slow start, which is good on the side of Nguyen Segura. Get some takedowns as well. Trades are coming out. And fast 1 HP on Twintino is quite a rare sight to see on a brawl which doesn't really have any capabilities of being so of any kind of gadget use, unlike a Draco and such. But already, yeah, they're looking a lot better as a result of this draft. And Loud stacked now in spawns and not playing too well together, it seems.
Adinho going to release a super gear rejected. The reflection coming in clutch here now a couple times. Could be a breakaway on this right-hand side, though. This red roster is set up for defense, offense, something much tougher. And the big barreling Frank just trying to move his way down. He's got assistance from Firecrow, who's being shredded through right now. A good super out here, a little shield up. They're releasing every shot they have on this man. They still haven't found a way to bring Adinho down.
Yeah, playing much better together. Kydog now, last man standing, just trying to delay the inevitable, but that's a shot! And it should trigger on the line as well! The respawns were not there in time for Firecrow and Dino! And finally, we get a little bit of action on the side of Nguyen Segura as they get off the board.
Some signs of life here. A super dodge. Coyote Dog trades. Fire Crow right hand in as the hypercharged super goes down. Looking to swing his way down the right hand side. Not enough though. This defense out of Buster has been incredible. Honestly, they have really shut down this Frank for the most part.
Oh, Birds able to survive on there. Should be able to heal up as the hypercharge. That's definitely a concern as Tuva's now invisible. Trying to get some good shots from Twadino. Does get Alpha Smash. Wasted gadget. Two members of Nguyen Segura still stay standing on that right hand side, just pocketing the ball now for the next 40 seconds. As they'll try to delay the inevitable coming through. That hypercharge is certainly going to be a very good thing to have on defense. The heal screen from Firecrow handed over to his teammates. They're pushing for the ball. Good connection from Pavone. Following through for the second one. Firecrow trying to do his best all alone, but it's not going to avail too much. And they're greenery on defense. Definitely going to shut the very idea down.
Only about 20 seconds left to go. Shot clock approaching, and Coyote Dog nowhere inside of this ball. And Dino's going to have to grab it. Tufa on defense, releasing shots from a distance. All they have to do is battle the clock. Dino dribble, left hand in, breakaway, but a kick away and a perfect interception. Red Roster throws it to the other side, and now Coyote Dog not going to be able to grab this. Signs of life coming in here in game number 1.
Fantastic stuff. It's what we want to see. And finally, a much better draft then. And one that has some legs. Could even potentially even out these sets. But it is still early days. It's a glimmer of hope. And the first set was just so convincing in favor of Loud. This one now much more close together. Can Loud gain the game here? I think they can. I think they just cannot leave a big opening like we did last game. That was too much of an opportunity. And that Buster pick really now being the thorn in the side here of Loud. Pushing it forward now. Bivard on the right hand side with some great value. Should be able to walk this one through as well. And he does so spectacularly well. In the first 20 seconds of play, Loud are crumbling.
I was giving them a lot of credit on center stage, especially in scrims leading up to this week. This was one of their better maps, but right now, Nguyen Segura making it look too easy. Rated foot on this Buster has been incredible. And he's now working this left-hand side. Coyote Dog still on stage 1 as Surge. He has to get up. It's a super pass over, a miraculous play, and it's a tie ball game here. Nguyen Segura looking to pull off a miracle.
Fantastic stuff. That's what you love to see to start off the day. No sweeps happening in our first match. And some big things to consider now for Loud, because that was a very convincing set in favor of Nguyen Segura. I mean, again, I draw a lot of it back to the draft. I think that's where things went very well. That Buster pick, as I was saying, very underrated. And I don't know why it is so, because it's such a great thing to have in Brawl Ball there. Tuva there on 490 DPS as well. Great stats. And a much better night and day difference, really. All tied up. Fantastic.
All tied up. I know this is not what you guys are expecting. We were saying a quick 3-0 right at the start of this, but this is exactly what we love to see. Now, talk to me a little bit about after that draft. You know, this is a different game mode. What could they have learned from that last one? Are they just staying away from Kit here, or is this a whole new plan that they've got for a whole new setup?
I think the draft was definitely much better. Loud really just, they were playing the same style of draft as we saw in the first set on the side of Nguyen Segura, taking some risks that I don't think were really necessary to do so. You know, the tanky picks, even with combining their heals to it, just not really enough to overthrow a brawler like Juju for me. I was hoping to see a Max leading into that draft. That would have been kind of like, I would have expected to see a bit more of the aggression that we're used to seeing from Loud, maybe, to go against that Juju, but they left it open. I like the idea. It's a risk to leave it open for sure, but if it's an option.
Vreau să vede dacă mergi. Cum mai faci?
Kind of idea, but it provides more survivability and aggressiveness, really. So I'm kind of just curious to see what strategy could be. With a Gus as a standalone, it is absolutely fine as well. Melody, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Melody, as we've seen a lot in East Asia on this particular map too, getting some fantastic results, and definitely the much better of those two ideas between the Carl and the Melody. So I really like that. It's a very strong draft. It's going to play pretty badly into the RT at times, so it really is all about timing to ensure that, you know, that leg form is being kept well away, and eradicating the RT as a primary kind of source of low HP, you know, attention, really. But certainly that's a great synergy. Loud here, looking to me like having the week of the draft so far. Still going to come in. You know, in any other instance, I wouldn't be as much of a fan of it. But in the hands of Kydog, I mean, if it can't work, then you know that they've given it the very best chance of working. But it's a very open map here, Kenny. You know, let's be honest, it's not really a map that caters immediately towards Stu, although I can see it working. With Byron, I don't think it makes much difference to me. I think that still I'm starting on the right side here.
I really love the start that the red side's got here. We've got Gus and Melody, which is a great combination. I think that kind of deters Loud from going the traditional sharpshooter route. Like I mentioned, you get a Gus bubble onto the Melody. She is going to dive at you. She's going to be pesky, and she's going to have those musical notes circling around her while she dances around you and takes down foes. And the name of this game is all kills. As long as you're getting those frags and keeping the lead, you're going to be great. The escapability she brings is also nice. I think Loud are kind of going with an out there composition. We've got Byron plus Stu. Stu's tougher for those sharpshooters at times if you can hit the jukes, and obviously, like you mentioned, Kydog phenomenal at this brawler, but this is a really well-rounded composition on our right-hand side. I think I'm leaning their way too.
Piper can get overwhelmed sometimes against the Stu, but again, such an open map, not really much ability to push forwards. You're going to have to run Speed Zone as a gadget. I can't really see any advantage to trying to break the walls with anything else on that Stu gadget side. So, and it's also quite a good way to tank the Piper shots if you're really under pressure as a Stu. But even so, I mean, it's going to take a lot. It really is. This comp is so polished on the side of Ningwim Segura. I really like what they brought to the table in terms of strategy, but can Loud do anything against this? That's the question. Byron Hills from Firecrow going to have to land every single time to Firecrow, and it's not there for it in that instance. The kill was picked up, traded over though exactly as well. Actually into the hands of Loud. I think that poison trick must have been more than I was expecting.
I don't know if I love the process, but the result was great. I mean, he kind of just dashed away from Firecrow, and now Firecrow goes down. They're going to be pinned in this bottom right-hand side, and Gwim Segura elect not to put too much pressure on him. They're going to hold this mid-control, let Firecrow respawn, get rid of that bubble, and now all of them are vulnerable.
Firecrow's going to have his work cut out, man. He's been healing the entire game, and sometimes it can only work for so long before you're just overrun, especially against a Melody now with hypercharge on the side of Raider Foot. Then that left-hand side to making some space, I think is wise for Loud. They've still got the lead, but they do have to bring this back to a more mid-match game. Firecrow 2 weeks have already gone on the healing side. Ooh, some good taps from Kydog. Almost secured a takedown for that.
It was pretty close, and they did exhaust a couple of those 3-for-1 supers that you get with Melody. That's also one of the perks with her. She's going to use that last one there and try and recharge it up to get all 3 back. She's also just going to hug this wall with her musical notes. It's not allowing Kydog to kind of push at them. He's having to zig and zag left and right. Low HP, a gadget going down for Firecrow. A dive in, 1, looking for 2, doesn't get it. Kydog survives, and with 30 seconds to go, they're going to be up 3.
Oh, Tuva just shortchanged on the left-hand side. Just scratching and grazing there with his shots, but nothing on the HP side. There's a final push coming in really here. And then Gwim Segura, who are behind on the stars. Big poison trickle down that Melody in the mid as Kydog gets the hypercharge, going straight to the eyes of that Piper and fires up the landing as well. 12 stars in the blue now for Loud, and in a very, very good spot to secure a game.
Gonna be a close call. Firecrow piling it on here as well. What's a couple extra kills for the stat line? Might as well get some garbage time stats. Nonetheless, a GG here in our first. Ademio back on top alongside his teammates. And to be honest with you, Ark, that felt like a lot of mechanics to me. I felt like Kydog was really having to put in some calculated work to get those frags towards the beginning of the game. I think it could have gone real south if they didn't get that lead early. I think they almost needed it to kind of hang on, survive, and really make the red side kind of push up.
And it was a very, very clutch kill as well. I believe it may have been from the Kydog flame of the Stu dash potentially there, or combined with that poison from the Byron, but it almost wasn't a lead that Loud had to play with. And gaining it early on, I fully agree, was really quite the way forwards here, as they're really fighting for the lead again, going super aggressive, getting right up in the faces there of Ningwim Segura. We're now trying to fight back. Oh, a lovely gadget pop of the hacks there from Adino, securing the kill on that right-hand side, giving them a 3-star lead over to Loud. A very advantageous stage of the game. Shield hands over to the Melody now, and some aggression. Not really much to come home with. Kydog's weak and weary here, but staying alive, and 2-star connecting the shots. Now he does follow up, and that will close the gap somewhat, but there's still a 1-star lead in favor of Loud.
Ooh, and Tufa connects with another. The hacks aren't quite enough to get that kill on Melody, and as a result, Blue Star switching over to Ningwim Segura. They're going to have a speed zone down. And they didn't make any kills with that bubble, but they did get a lot of presence and pressure, which allowed Tufa to push up to make those taps. So as long as everybody's doing their job, they're in good control here. They're gonna have to hold on for a little bit longer. The hypercharge moving down now, looking for one. Kyo Dog goes, and they're expanding this lead. Ningwim Segura giving them a little fight back.
Yeah, lovely stuff. I thought Raiderfoot might get 2 for his trouble there, but just the 1 is plenty. 9 stars and that blue. And this is where they struggle on the defensive side. It's kind of going in the shield at just the right time there for Bravo, but now taken care of. And it puts Raiderfoot back out of position, but he finds one behind himself. Now pinched out, and has forced us hand over. But Loud are still behind here with 20 seconds on the clock. They've got to find another takedown, but they've got the advantage of it being literally anyone.
Battling for the set now. Shot clock available. Kyo Dog right-hand side as Fire Crow approaches the mid. Tufa has a hypercharge available. Not diving in quite yet. Kyo Dog skating around. The rubber hits the road, and Loud secures the kills. Raiderfoot nowhere in sight. He needs to get there, but Kyo Dog skates away. Incredibly played, and the mechanics persevere.
The clock, the way it was, I thought there may have been a world that they ran out of time for Loud, and it may have been a tie-up set, but not to be. And a really convincing way for Loud to come back in this series, because honestly, it was looking a very tough draft. I much still prefer what we see on the side of Ningwim Segura, but as soon as I saw the Stu, I thought if there's any team that can land this mark, it's going to be Loud. And they were so good in the aggression, putting Ningwim Segura on the defense time and time again, and coming out on top for it. Not an easy draft to make work, but one that is very much in the hands of Loud to do so.
Can you take a look at the replay here? It looks like the story was the mechanics in this third set. I mean, talk to me a little bit about how Loud had to pull it together here to bring it to NGS, who was bringing a little bit more fire than I think anyone anticipated.
They've been really impressive. Outside of this first set, right, they've been drafting pretty well. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of with Ark. I think Loud made this a little bit more difficult on themselves than they needed to. The Stu's a comfort pick, but it's not an easy one to pull off on this map. And the fact that they did, I think, goes to show the caliber of a team we're working with. The draft is a lot, but ultimately you got to execute. And despite how we feel, it played out the way of Loud winning that 2-0. But I don't think this is over yet. I really do think this right-hand side's got a chance here.
Yeah, what would you have liked to see instead of the Stu that you think might have given them a better edge in that matchup?
It's not that much, to be completely honest, to kind of consider. I mean, you're looking at like long-range ideas. I think from memory, the Bell was banned as well. That would have been quite a nice one to consider. I mean, Hole potentially, but it's again quite risky, especially against the Melody. I think the draft really was just a tough one to play into for me. So, I mean, what about you, Kenny? Any thoughts on that side of things? I mean, it makes sense in the side of Loud. If that had been any other team, though, I think they would have probably lost the set.
I think so too. I think they really had to pull that one out. You know, obviously that's a map that caters more towards sharpshooters. We see some interesting combinations there with all the bans that went down. I really do think that 2-3 turn with grabbing Gus and Melody was such a strong thing, because that's something Loud are running constantly. It's something a lot of teams are running. They grabbed the RT, but after that, a lot of those traditional picks were kind of in the ban stages. So I think, again, credit to the ban picks phase of this right-hand side. They're playing this a lot better and have seriously recovered from this first set.
Going to Heist, then Kaboom Canyon. Definitely a lot of heavy hits that need to be banned here. Immediately, Melody's got to be there. Chuck is a bit of a 50-50, I think, for me. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It has a big kind of countermeasure idea in the strategy. So I think that it's not necessarily nearly as dominant as we saw it being last year. Definitely, though, if you're playing ladder and ranked, it's very high up in the win rates. In competitive, it's looking to be on the lower side, actually, for me, although it is quite a big threat still that you have to heavily consider, and whether you've kind of prepared enough for it in your, in your scrim side of things. The Crow, it has to be banned in this region, no doubt about it for me. It was very much the decision maker of things last year, and the meta hasn't changed for it this year. Probably played Crow in Heist before anyone else actually in South America, so that's a must-have ban here. But Colette certainly gonna have a great time on this particular map as well. And you know, Melody's Carl's over the lake as well. I can see it having a pretty decent place here also. So Amber, I think we've seen a bit more of a rise actually in Amber now in Heist, defensively speaking as well, but also aggressively. We've seen it actually play quite a big kind of counter roll into a Chuck as well, which we've seen last week. So certainly a lot of choice, a lot of options on this particular map for me. And it's a very South American map mode to have here. Loud, not going to be taking any chances in that regard, but they have already had a bit of a shaky second set. do not want to have a position of going to the 5th and final against Ingrim Segura, and any possible idea of there being a turnaround here, they've got to shut this idea down. They cannot allow any momentum over, because what an upset this would be, Kenny, if this was to go all the way.
Yeah, this would be a tough one for Loud to lose off the rip. I think you covered a lot of the prominent brawlers that show up on this map. The Amber and Carl even showing up. I think Melody, Colette, some key pieces for that high safe damage. Honestly, Barry, somebody that shows up a ton in Heist right now, so I think all of those are very worthwhile. Angelo, if you're playing a more control-styled gameplay, I think is a really solid first overall pick. And even if you're not, it's just one of the better brawlers, I think, on this map and mode. Anytime you have access to the water, a little extra space to move, it's going to be a good bit. 8-Bit is somebody I'm kind of looking out for here too. We saw it in the graphic, and one of my favorite things this year is on these maps, they're kind of pointing you all out some of the tips and tricks on each of these. And it says break walls or don't break walls. And 8-Bit is a huge factor when it comes for that. Brock and 8-Bit often get in the equation. Penny with her turret. Those walls matter a lot for some of these brawlers. For Angelo, not as much, but depending on the strategy these teams want to use, I think that's going to come into play a ton.
Definitely Juju against Angelo. I prefer Juju on this particular map, especially with the Penny. This comp on the side of Loud is really screaming, let's get our position back in spawn and stuck. And Angelo's going to be terrible on defense in that regard. The slow effect that Juju can obtain by just hovering around that sort of lake area of the map. And the Penny turret, once that hypercharge is down, it's so hard to escape its clutches. Let's see what happens here with Brock. I mean, it's not a very big pick for me coming in to join the party at the Angelo. It's still all about range. I'm gonna have some difficulties, I feel, on the defensiveness. Sure, the incendiary on the safe can shred through things, but nothing too much more to say for this side. It's still about range, and I think that they need to have a bit more variation on the side here of Ingrim Segura. But it was a very good banding stage of this draft on both sides, so we wouldn't mind seeing, I was going to say a Bell, but Daryl coming in is definitely the sort of brawler that you want to have when the Carl is banned in this kind of instance. Getting that roll, just time to get onto the safe. With the Chuck ban, the Carl ban, it makes sense to bring in a brawler like a Daryl. It's probably not the worst of picks. That may have swayed me somewhat towards the comp side of Ingrim Segura, but the third and final pick comes here from Loud. I'm liking what they're bringing already.
I will defend this right-hand side a little bit. They're going to be looking for wall break, and I think Griff's going to kind of cater to this as well, but they're going to go for this Angelo and Brock pairing. I think tear this open and try and make it a long-range affair, kind of deter some of that value that Juju would have gotten. Daryl is going to be a really aggressive factor that would have done great into Penny once those salty barrels are kind of exhausted. Juju, the one way she can't fend for himself is up close and personal, and that's exactly what Daryl does. Great at high safe damage, but this Griff pick's a really interesting one because not only is it going to be solid into breaking the map, I don't think that's necessarily what they're looking for, though. I think they want that super in tandem with the amount of high safe damage he can do. I think this may be a decent shot at trying to block out this Daryl from being a threat.
Let's see how things fare. I just feel like with the Juju, though, against Daryl, it's going to be good on the defensive. Nice invisibility already from Medina, just picking that mid position immediately. So, trying to deny a little bit on the Daryl side. They've probably fed him a lot on the side of Loud, but some good trades coming in now. 2 versus 2, Cardinals, weak and weary, as is the Andrew there as well. It's 2 for by far the healthiest, now getting aggressed by that Griff pick. I quite like it. 5 no, missing 2 shots there. Needs to finish him off, does so now, but now Daryl's on the safe for Ingrim Segura, and damage, more importantly, rolling in that damage gear too. Bit of a miss gadget. You want that on the safe ideally as well. That would be a ton of damage. He was, on low damage gear level as well. You gotta land those. That's a lot of damage wasted actually.
A lot of damage wasted. They exhaust a Penny barrel as well. You want to use those to defend against Daryl more than ideally. I mean, they can use them to proc these single-shot brawlers, but that's a long time to try and get one brawler takedown in a 2v2 situation. High safe damage certainly favoring Ingrim Segura right now. They're the ones that are aggressing. They're moving down, and another takedown on Kyodog. Adiu's going to have to put in some serious work right here to make up for this.
Burst not using his gadget on the safe at all. We've been trying to get super, now he's got the hypercharge as well, but, I mean, it's an odd choice, I mean, you're going to get super over time regardless playing Daryl anyway. He's obviously struggling to close the gap, but you really want to, that's like 8k damage on the safe with a single gadget. I believe it's quite a substantial amount that you want to be reserving, but it's not really using for that means. So just an interesting choice. Not sure it's one that I kind of agree with. 2 from the left-hand side though. Hypercharge going to surely try and find time to land on the safe and does so here. So more continuous damage for the side there of Ingrim Segura. Got a healthy lead so far, but now the aggressiveness of Bird needs to suffice into that safe, and dealing low. Good taps from Raider Foot as well might provide an opening here.
The long-range shots from Tufa and Ray have been phenomenal. Now they're laying it down on the high safe, bringing it all the way down to almost 30%. This is a huge difference. And I think the problem with Loud's composition is outside of maybe a penny turret, a Griff Super, they don't really have a way to play this unless it's control. But the other side, Red Roster has had control of the map the entire time. There's just no chance here for Loud to move.
They're really struggling, and that penny turret now completely exposed. We'll be there for the taps, rolling in, trying to get behind this respawn. Grigri, they're going to be helping on defense, but it's the damage that is lacking on the side of Loud. They're not going to have the time to be able to really establish much either. Not with two players standing on the side of Ningwim Secure and the respawn now of Bravo. So a very nice game. And this is really quite concerning for Loud. It's got to be. There wasn't really much to say for them in that set so far. That gives me too much hope. They're going to establish a much better chokehold of this safe, which they just were not able to achieve that last game. This is dangerous to go into a final set, and that's a really concerning thing when you think about it. You know, one bad draft or the coin toss is not going your way, and your strategy unfolding, and then you're losing, you know, for your organization in the quarterfinal stages. I mean, we need to see more from Loud really quite soon, and that's not a good way to start. All three members now respawning back in, and Ningwim Segura got the high ground.
Tufa has had this left-hand side on lockdown. We saw him get across the map, drop a hypercharge there, but honestly, he's winning his lane. Now he's being pesky. This is where Adinho has an advantage, though. Throwers into these sharpshooters. If there's a wall involved, it's going to favor that side. But for a control-based comp, for Penny, for Juju, for Griff, they're not controlling the map. They have to find these frags, but somehow, some way, this Red Roster just keeps finding ways to get kills. Firecrow finally getting a few taps. It's just not enough compared to a Brock Super or a Daryl Roll on that safe.
Turret, not really well placed. It could have been a bit more to the right-hand side for me. One tile gap there. It's going to leave it wide open for shots from the Angelo, and along with the Brock shots onto the grass. Not really anywhere now for Loud to hide. They're just taking too long to get set up, and there's one turret from Firecrow. He needs to get the hypercharge, and they need to start to get some damage in. They're getting some decent defenses, but again, time is not on their side right now. Firecrow's going to land more shots, get the hypercharge down, but also have his teammates stay firm, and the more map that's broken up and left wide open, less there is to hide realistically here. Hypercharge available for Bravo now. He gets super now. It's going to be quite difficult to defend against it, so they've got to tap him down, which they do pretty well. Now, hypercharge there for Firecrow. The best chance that Loud have had all day so far in this set.
Firecrow gonna have to play this pretty perfectly. Penny turret is going to be shredded through, and now Bravo with a breakaway on the left-hand end, rolling straight at Kyodog, not even going for high safe damage. He's not gonna get a pick off this either. Kyodog survives. Firecrow with a hypercharge, trying to march up as well. They need as much positioning as possible here, and they're finally starting to even out the score.
Great prediction there from Tufa. That turret's been immediately eradicated. It was a great push forward from Firecrow. Diminished completely now. Grigri taking some shots there from Raider Foot. As Firecrow still stays on the safe, getting some damage, but there's a lot still to be done there. And it's just Adino and Kyodog. They've got to be able to bring in damage now before we can rejoin the mix. It's going to be Ningwim Segura going heavily now to the defense. They've got a good setup to do so.
Shot clock now on. It's going to be Bravo rolling forward. I want to see offense right now. Loud don't have time to defend this, but they have to. Resources force away from the other end. And believe it or not, Loud's honeymoon phase is looking shaky. Ningwim Segura, the number 8 seed, have taken another set and pushed us to a set 5.
I mean, full circle conversation coming around here, isn't it, really? Coming into today, me saying that I wanted to see a rise up in this region from a new contender. I want less of this kind of back and forth between sort of Loud and Casablanca.